Okay, so this is my continuing series about the Illuminati pyramid. The elite who plan everything, plan how everything's going to go on planet Earth, and then the rest of you who are down here at the bottom of the pyramid. Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about is religion. Holy smokes, the Holy Bible. And that's why I've got my cross on here, because I'm your priest. And even though, I'm telling you all about what the plan is from the elite at the top of the pyramid to do with the rest of you, and I keep telling you all these things, that the elite plan to reduce the world population from what the CIA tells us is about 7.5 billion down to 500,000 people. Because, well, I've already talked about it. The reason why they want to get rid of you is you're a useless eater and they don't need you, and you're somewhat a pain in the ass to control. So if they bring it down to 500,000 people, it's just less people. They don't even need 500,000 people. Unless they're going to use, a lot of you as cannon fodder, in case there's like a war between, I already said earlier, there's 13 people at the top, and those 13 factions might fight against one another, so they might need some soldiers. But not really, because they've got robot soldiers now. Have you not seen this? DARPA? DARPA is the American research department for the Defense Department, and they've created these robots that you saw in the Star Wars, Clone Wars. The robots, the robot army, that's what they have designed, and they've made some really good robots, and they've made drones, all kinds of technologies that are less and less reliant upon humans. So I keep talking about what are you supposed to do about this, and the answer I keep telling you is you've got to evolve. And so I brought up religion. Can you evolve following the Bible? I have to make my bed. Okay, I'm going to use this one here, 33, as a symbol for another kind of religion known as Freemasonry. Why? Because Freemasons are different than Christians. It's a religion. And they have 33 degrees in the main form. So I'm going to tell you all to shut up. Why? Well, most likely because I'm a 33rd degree in the Mason system, and you're an initiate. You're at the bottom. So with Freemasonry, it's also a pyramid. You start at the bottom, as a new person, and then you get up to 33, and you're the most learned person at your local Masonic lodge. And then what happens? Well, according to conspiracy theory, then you might get picked to join the Illuminati, which is also another name for the elite at the top of the pyramid. That's the way this religion goes. How about if you were, at the top of the pyramid of this, you became, I don't know, Jerry Falwell, a televangelist, or you became the Pope, head of the Roman Catholic Church. Where else do you go from there? Oh, well, you could become a mystic. What's a mystic? Oh, that's somebody like the monks. They stay in monk quarters, and they do a lot of chanting and things. Or, you might stay in a nunnery if you're a Catholic, a female Catholic in a nunnery, monasteries, and this is a place where you just focus on your spiritual life, and that's all. Is that going to evolve you? could be. That's the best chance you have of evolving yourself, becoming a nun or becoming a monk. Why? Because we have examples of people who were monks and nuns who became what were known as saints of the church. And they say that in order to become a saint, you have to have done a bona fide miracle. Who does miracles? I don't do miracles. I talk on YouTube and Instagram. But saints do miracles, like miracle healings. Ergo, they must be more advanced than the average human that just spends their time doing regular human things. So, that is a clue. If you're, one of these Freemasons, do we have any examples of anyone in Freemasonry that might be doing miracles? No one comes to mind. But what else were the Freemasons involved with? They studied a lot of different religions. So, they might have started off with Christianity, but they might also have learned about ancient Egypt and ancient Hebrew, ancient Babylon. And what do you know from these religions? Well, if you're a typical Christian, all you know about ancient Egypt is, well, they had the pyramids and the Sphinx. What do you know about ancient Hebrew? Well, isn't that where Jesus came from? And in Jerusalem, well, what did you have there? Well, you might have heard of the Great Temple. And that's what these Masons were all about. The temple in Jerusalem. King Solomon. And there's all kinds of other stuff that I'm not a Mason, I can't tell you about, but that's what they study. So did they get to do any kind of miracles? I don't know. One branch of the people who studied all this stuff were into things like alchemy. What's alchemy? It's a whole different branch. It has to do with changing lead into gold. What kind of lead? Well, they didn't know. They heard lead into gold, so they started playing with lead and trying to figure out how do you change lead into gold. It was actually done. Alchemy led into chemistry. And in order to change lead into gold, you have to move into physics, nuclear physics, and then you can do these kind of things. But that's not really what alchemy was about. That was kind of the cover story. Mercury, what do you want to know about Mercury? Astrology. This is another kind of thing that olden day people were interested in. What else were they interested in? I'm trying to figure it all out. They went into things like magic, not just sleight of hand, but real magic. The famous magician, the great beast, Aleister Crowley. Ozzy Osbourne sang a song called Mr. Crowley. Why? Because Crowley was well enough known so that somebody who was a rock musician in Black Sabbath heard about Crowley and wrote a song about him. Mr. Crowley, how'd you get in my head? Mr. Crowley, Why did you go away from there? Okay, so we're going to go back to the nuns and the monks from Christianity, because we said some of them ended up being saints because they did miracles. And in order to do miracles, you got to be more and more like Mr. Jesus, who reputedly raised the dead, cured the sick, turned water into wine. So what other things do we have that are talking about this kind of thing? We have got what are known as the Ascended Masters. Who are they? Well, they did ascension. What's ascension? Well, some kind of evolution. The Ascended Master Sananda told me in person that it's harvest time on planet Earth. What is harvest time? It's time for me to become an Ascended Master. He's kept saying, this is mastery. Mastery of what? Let's call it spiritual mastery. What does it mean? Well, it has to do with spirituality, which has to do with what you might be. According to some teachings, you are a spiritual thing rather than a physical thing. It gets very detailed, but that is one thing. And harvest time means it's time for you to become a master. What else is it time for? Well, if you're not into spiritual things and you're into scientific things, it's time for transhumanism. We've got all kinds of computers. Let's upload me into a computer, then I'll live forever. Transhumanism. What else have we got? We have examples from Star Trek. Star Trek The Next Generation had an enemy of the people called the Borg. And what were the Borg? They were a hive mind. If you never watched Star Trek, then a hive mind is bees. They all work together in a hive. What are they talking about now? Well, they're talking about the Internet of Things and plugging you into the Internet of Things. Maybe having a brain implant where you're connected to the Internet and all the other people. That's being talked about constantly these days. In other words, wouldn't you like to become a Borg? Why was it that on Star Trek The Next Generation they didn't want to become a Borg? Because you lose your individuality and you're run by the Internet. Do you want to trade in your individuality to be run by the Internet? Do you want to be run by Facebook and Google and Apple and Alibaba? And, well, that's how they're planning to enslave you. I mean, I've already talked about how pretty much you already are a slave, because on the Illuminati pyramid, they have the elite, the 13 people at the top, and the 7.5 billion throughout the rest of this pyramid. Okay, this is my metaphysical detective, Vasily Fisk. And he just wants to say, I'm still doing my detective work. Next thing I'm going to talk to you about is QAnon. What is QAnon? Well, if you haven't heard about it, then you're in the dark. But QAnon is somehow related to the Earth Alliance, which is about freeing the Earth from the tyranny of being ruled by the 13 people at the top of the Illuminati pyramid. Is it real? Is it going to help you? Is it going to help you evolve? No. No, it's not. It's a media circus using Donald Trump's Twitter and some Reddits and these Q drops. What is it all about? It's about keeping Donald Trump in power. Donald Trump is always talking about fake news. Is the news fake? Yes, he's telling you the truth. What else is he telling you? Oh, he's telling you that Hillary Clinton and Obama were involved with all kinds of horrible things, Pizzagate and Obamagate, whatever that is. Obama's married to a man. Hillary Clinton and her husband were involved with Jeffrey Epstein on Epstein's Island. They're all crooked. Whitewater. Whitewater was what they tried to get Bill Clinton not indicted for, but impeached over. It's all political garbage. It's not going to involve you. Should you listen to it? Well, one of their slogans is the Great Awakening, and the Great Awakening among the people who follow QAnon is learning about all of the horrible things that Obama and crooked Hillary have done. Donald Trump is no sane. He's not sane. But, he was well known from his TV show and his time as being, kind of a wheeler dealer in New York City. So he was used. And people like David Wilcock, have you ever heard of him? YouTube commentator, another person who is sadly misled, partly because he thinks that Donald Trump somehow is going to help the world. Is Mr. Trump going to help the world? No, he needs a new barber and he needs to stop dyeing himself orange. Why orange? Perhaps William of Orange, who conquered Northern Ireland, and, Northern Ireland was a perennial thorn in the side of the British because it was the Catholics versus the Protestants, and regular island of Ireland was all Catholic, so it was a religious feud that had nothing to do with Jesus and everything to do about the cult that you belong to, either the Protestant cult or the Catholic cult. And if you were Protestant, then you were an Orangeman. Is Donald Trump an Orangeman? He's got orange hair, and quite often he has orange skin. I'm going to keep going with somehow it's time for me to end this video and move on to a new one. Please be sure to continue following me. And if you're watching me, then you're getting the straight information.